What is melody? Is it the tune? What is melody? Is it the moon? Is it just the moon? Ask Richard Niles.
And I notice you are displaying your incredible selection of interesting instruments behind you.
That's it.
Beautifully displayed. And this is the young lady who not only dares to play the banjo, but she plays the banjo-lele, which I like a lot, actually.
Oh,
But I don't feel that there's anything Hawaiian about it, but it is there.
yeah.
It's good, isn't it? Yeah. My dog has fleas, by the way. Did you know that? My
My
dog
dog has fleas, but it might be
That's it.
slightly out of tune.
Well, yeah. That's probably the
Yeah.
only time you've ever sung out of tune in your life.
That's very
Now,
kind.
I'd like to begin by using that as an excuse to talk about a subject which I think is really interesting about you, because you're loaded with interesting things about you. But one of the things that your voice can do is blend with almost anything beautifully. And you have the ability to usually sing perfectly in tune with whatever you're singing with. And that brings me to another thing. See, you weren't expecting this question, but and I haven't even gotten to the question, and I may never get to the question. It's part of my interviewing technique, but just roll with it and you'll like it in the
Okay.
end.
Yeah,
So
I'm sure. Yeah.
not only were you part of a group, All Angels, where you had to vocally blend with other people of a feminine persuasion, but you also you've worked with lots of TV directors and film directors and people like that. So you're working with. Then you've got this thing which I want you to tell us about at some point, not now, the Herd Collective. Now, I've heard many things about this, but what I haven't heard is how you put that together. So that shows another example of you working with other people. Also, this musical you're working on called Coven. Now, Coven is getting a lot of people together, and you've co-written the. So my big question, which I'm finally getting to, is you are not only, forget that you're an incredibly great musician and singer on top of that, because they're not always the same thing, but you are a fantastic collaborator. Now, what I want to know is your technique of working with other people, because I know how I've worked with you, and it was always completely as if we were just having a good time and doing great things, and nobody ever thought. But with some people, working together is not easy. So I want to know what your attitude towards it and your methodology of working with all of these disparate types of people.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Well, that's a good question. That's
It
a
is
great
good,
question.
isn't it?
I haven't been asked that question before.
No, and that's why Uncle Richard is here to do so.
Yes, it's good. I've worked with all sorts of people, whether it's people who are professional songwriters, or all the way to people who are starting out with that as a teacher. So I think because I had that background of teaching, even from the age of like 16, 17, I had my first student. I kind of learned very early on to adjust and adapt to the situation, whatever that might be, whether it's somebody who's very new and very, maybe lacking in confidence with what they're doing, and sort of just making room for them and making them feel good about themselves, which is the best place to begin with any collaboration. And so I think because of that, the teaching background, that helped, but also I think it's just, I'm just wanting to learn from other people all the time. So I kind of want to always listen to them and hear what their ideas are, because I know what my ideas are,
Right.
So, right, and some people love the sound of their own voice, and I can be like that sometimes, but I like to try and give other people a bit of room so that it feels very, very collaborative, rather than just being like, I'm going to sing this and then you better just validate what I say or do, So I think that definitely helps, being a good listener and good collaborator, giving space to the other person. I think also, it's the improviser rule that you don't say no, you say yes, and if you come up with a better idea, then that's great. But the idea of saying no too early on, it just it stifles that creativity too quickly, and it's all about trying to create that atmosphere for creation and just freedom. So and I think it's Disney who had the yes room. I think he called it. Before it went to the editing room, it would have the yes room, so that everything was a yes. It doesn't matter how zany the idea was, there's no no's in that room, right? So everybody could just sort of come up with anything, and then later it would go to the editing suite, and then it would be adjusted a bit more. But the idea of just brainstorming, letting everything out, and I find that when I'm the less successful collaborations have been with people who are more no people and who will kind of say, oh, I don't like that lyric, but then they don't really suggest anything instead.
Right.
So it just stops right in its tracks,
Yeah, in songwriting, that really drives me crazy. I don't mind if somebody says no to something when you're trying to collaborate and write a song together, but then a lot of them just say no and they offer nothing in return.
Yeah.
And so you think, well, okay, what are you asking me to do? Just write the song for you?
Right.
And I'm supposed to come up with 12 ideas until you like one of them? No. And actually that's sort of, I did hear a story about a very successful pop star who was writing with a very successful songwriter producer. And I won't say the names just because, I guess there's some chance I might work again. I don't know. But anyway, he came to the studio to write a song, and so he sat down, had a cup of coffee, and said, oh, you got anything? To the producer-songwriter, and the producer and songwriter said, okay, well, I've got this kind of idea for a feel, and started playing the piano, and he just kind of shook his head, yeah, that sounds great. And then they said, well, what would you like to try to come up with a melody on it? And he hummed a few things, but didn't really come up with a melody. And he said, well, maybe you'd like to. Nothing happened. And after an hour, the guy said, oh, let's go to lunch. And they went to lunch. And after lunch, he said, oh, I've got to go meet my girlfriend. Bye. And he said, send me the song when it's finished. And that is, unfortunately, I heard this story from this guy, that's the way a lot of the, the kind of big pop stars who you see their names on the record, that's how it happens. But the other thing is, the reason I ask you this question is because we've had the fun of working together. And, it was even fun. I got to work for you when you did some gigs and my son Alex and I played for you, and that was really fun.
I was honored. Thank you. Both in London and in LA as well. Yeah.
Indeed.
Yeah.
It was totally fun. And it was such a pleasure and I noticed that you do this thing of, you're very clear about what you want, but at the same time open to other people's ideas. And so as a result, everybody feels like they're just having fun and playing some tunes together, and instead of feeling like it's a job or a gig. And equally, I completely tortured you with a song called "Tip for a Toreador."
No, it was not a torture. It was wonderful. Here. Oh, look at that! You got a prop.
Well, I've got a prop. My songwriting book here.
Absolutely.
Give myself a plug, because after all, you got to make a living in this world. But what I was saying is that you have this wonderful ability, I think, to make everything, even when you're being tortured. And I assure you, folks, Daisy was tortured by this song, and I'm going to play it for you in this video. At the end of this video, I'm going to throw it in, so you can hear how I tortured her. But did she complain? No, she did not. Did she do everything with a smile? Yes, she did. And then I forced her to do a video and wear a big flower in her hair. Did she complain? No, did not complain at all. It was great. So
it was great for me too.
I think it's a very special quality that you have beyond being talented. Because Daisy, how many people do you know who are talented who never get anywhere?
I've lost fingers.
Yes.
Yeah, so many.
Yes. So I think that, to me, that's the little extra X factor that people don't talk about, is that ability to be a human being and work with other people and give other people the respect. And that's so I'm going to stop talking about that now. But when I lived in London, pretty much every day I'd be at Café Nero, and I would
Oh,
be,
really? I
having
didn't know
that's
that.
for me that's was at least it was the best coffee in London. And also, the baristas, they knew exactly how I wanted it. Basically, black, nothing in it, just give me the coffee. Uh, so yeah, how did you get your songs into Café Nero? I want to know how.
Yeah, oh sure. Well, it was a little bit random, but so when I did this, I did a competition called the Coffee Music Project in London, and they actually have one in LA as well as New York, but they started off in London.
Wow.
And yeah, so actually that I think maybe the visit that we met up last time, I actually was a judge on the panel for the LA competition, but
Wow.
I had been a winner a couple of years earlier, so in the London competition, and it was a singer-songwriter competition, and the idea is you had to write a song about London for that one anyway, and then for different cities it was different cities, but they've also had other themes like writing a song about coffee, writing a song about
Wow.
summer, all these different sort of briefs that you get given.
I
And
wish I
so,
had known about this because you know how much I love coffee.
well, there's
And
actually a competition. It's going right now, and I
is
don't
it
know what the
really?
deadline is, but it is in November. So I think is it November? Yeah, it's coming up anyway. So I'll let you know about it if you have a song about
Yes,
coffee.
yes.
Then yeah, so I won the competition, and because of the fact that it's kind of connected with coffee, a few different people were there, including the agency I signed with shortly after that called Talent Bank, and somebody who works at Talent Bank has had a connection with Café Nero, so he was actually the head of music at Café Nero, and then he
Nice.
got all the musicians who are part of Talent Bank to be put forward for the playlisting at Café
Fantastic.
Nero. So yeah, that's how
Wonderful.
it happened. Yeah.
Well, that's really great. And that, even though coffee isn't really a direct link, I'm trying to think of a way to link coffee to, well, coffee has magical qualities to it.
It
It does have a
does.
magical quality
Oh, I see
to
what you're
make you
doing
feel
here.
better. You see where I'm going here? So you've co-written this musical called Coven. Now,
Hmm.
which subject is that about?
Very good. So many puns. I love it. And
I
you used a
know.
lot of puns for the herd one as well. I liked it.
I did.
Yes,
That
yeah,
in.
I noticed. Yeah, so Coven, as you can imagine, with that name, is, and the hints you've already given, is a musical about witches and the witch trials of the 16th, 17th century, particularly in Pendle in North England,
Oh, good.
which,
It's not Salem.
not Salem. No, no, no.
Good.
That's been done.
It has been done. Oh,
But yeah, this is a musical that's particularly about the Pendle Witch Trials, which is a kind of very unique example of something that was happening a lot, around Europe and then later in America. But it was child testimony was sort of used for the first time during the witch trials, and this young girl basically testified against her whole family, and they were all executed in front of her because of her testification. Is that the word, testification? Don't think
I
so.
don't think it is, but I love it.
Thank you for loving my bad English
Yeah,
there.
because of her testimony, I believe would be a good way to do it.
Testimony. Oh my
Testimony,
gosh.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
it's
Well,
late here in the UK, so just that's my
well, I
excuse.
hope that your
Um,
musical makes money.
yes.
I know. Sorry.
Very good, very good. Well, I'm not actually writing the script, luckily. With that, that was a
Good. You
really bad
guys, somebody
example.
else is writing the book.
Yes, exactly. So the book has been dealt with by another writer who we've not actually announced yet because it's sort of expanded since the last time we were public about it.
Okay, right.
And then the lyrics were written with a very talented writer and actress, Rebecca Brewer, who's been as part of this from day one. So she actually came up with the idea originally. So she approached
Okay.
me after seeing my concerts as a folk musician, and she
Yes.
wanted to write with somebody a little different rather than a typical musical theatre writer, which is, I think, something that's quite common recently. A lot of people have been looking to other genres, or not
Yes.
genres, but other media to kind of find writers for musicals
I
and
think
musical
that's a
theatre.
really good thing, don't you?
I think, yeah, it makes it interesting. I think bringing other kinds of worlds into the world of musical theatre is always good, I think. So I grew up with musicals. My first ever gig was a musical when I was 9. So I have a lot of respect for musicals and musical writers. and I felt a little out of my depth to begin with, but I'm really embracing it, and I realized, yeah, I think I have the skills required for the job, I hope.
Well, yeah, no, I'm absolutely sure you do, because one of the things that's because you've mentioned this thing of style. Let's face it, you are a really trained classical musician. You've done a lot of different pop music in different styles. Your first album, where I became aware of you, was your first jazz album when I believe
Yeah.
you were 15, which
That's
is
right.
about 2 or 3 years ago, and uh, and
Thank you. I just nodded there, pretending that was, yeah, that was
that's good.
absolutely
Keep going.
accurate. Yes, I fit in a lot in those 2 years, but
Yeah. And so I was very impressed with that, because you were approaching jazz with a voice that wasn't like a jazz singer. You were approaching it with this purity and intonation, which of course, just sometimes with a singer, just the intonation alone is enough to knock me out, because
right.
it's so rare for me to hear a voice which is really beautifully, naturally in tune, and you had it, of course. But I also liked the gentle, non-pushy way that you sang those jazz tunes. And so you brought something fresh to those old tunes, which actually a lot of singers say they're doing, but they're not. They're just singing them, and they're singing them with kind of standard kind of arrangements, and it's not very inventive, and it's nice, but it's not killing me. But that album was amazingly impressive. But then
Thank you.
you've kind of gone through this thing and become an adult of sorts, uh, and now you've settled on this style, which I don't know that your publicity department is calling folk Americana, but it covers a lot of stuff, and it's very nice, and it's your own brand of, I guess, folk pop. I guess if you see, the trouble is people have to put labels on stuff in order to feel comfortable with talking about them. I would rather call your music Daisy Chute.
I like it. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that's the
agree.
better.
Yeah.
Like it says that right behind you, so I must be right. There it is. Yeah. So you've got the set very nicely laid out there, I must say.
Thank you.
Yeah. I want you to talk about yesterday, and I want you to talk about, of course, the movie yesterday, because I can tell you
Okay.
that, of course, we were so excited to see you in the movie, and I just want to know how you got the gig and how it was working on it.
Well, that gig came about from Twitter, would you believe? Because somebody on Twitter, well, famous film composer called Daniel Pemberton, who's quite active on Twitter. I don't know if you know him, but he's written lots of music for fairly big films, and he posted a tweet saying, "Looking for ukulele players in London for a shoot next week," and I didn't see this tweet, even though I do follow him, but I didn't see it. But a friend of mine who is he's like an agent for film, session musicians for film and TV. He then texted me saying, "By the way, Daniel Pemberton's looking for a ukulele player. Get in touch quick." And so I got in touch, and then we had there was a little casting call where they had to hear
Nice.
everybody to make sure, and then yeah, then it was very quickly just going into it. Really, it was I just so happened to have like a gap in my diary, which was quite unusual. So it was amazing that I could make it work, because then we did, a few weeks later, we were filming at Wembley Stadium at about midnight through to like 6 a.m. So I did have a gap in my diary, because I don't usually do any jobs at that time of the day, let's
Right,
be
of
honest.
course.
Is when I'm sleeping. But so I had that space, and so we did a filming night at Wembley, and then we went to the following week we went to Cardiff to the Millennium Stadium there, and we did a couple of nights there, and this was the ukulele, in fact, that I was playing.
Well, look at
The
that.
very same. And this is, we played Here Comes the Sun as part of it.
You did.
Oh, it's so out of tune. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I was playing the lead ukulele part.
Well, I mean, of course you would be.
It was a ukulele quintet, and they called us what was it? Richard Curtis decided to call us the Raspberry Berets,
Nice.
inspired by Prince, and we all had pink berets on.
Nice.
So yeah, we were in a very short little moment of the film, but it was It was a lot of fun, and
Well, it was big to us. We
yeah,
cheered.
thank
We
you.
cheered when you're as if you had put one in the back of the net.
Thank you. Way.
Yeah,
Very good. Very
exactly.
good. Football term. Well, yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, it was like we were at the almost at the football stadium after all. So
Well,
yeah.
now, Daisy, I'm going to shift you into another subject.
Okay.
And you're a songwriter, and you write really nice songs, and they have they follow all of the sort of great things about songwriting that I talk about in my book, which I'm plugging again. So,
Plug
Daisy
away.
says it's blue. Yeah. So the thing I want to ask you is, I'd like to know what your songwriting. Oh,
Sorry, that was my
that's loud.
coaster
Oh, you
falling off.
can.
Sorry.
I thought you were. Are you asking for coins? Because I can't really throw them over Zoom.
No, this is my drink. My coaster just fell down because it was stuck to the bottom of the drink.
If
Anyway.
only you had more of them, you could do a doo-wop thing. Thank you. Okay. Okay.
Ba-dum-tsh.
But what I want you to talk about after you have your drink is what is your songwriting methodology? Number one, that's the first part of the question. And number two, what's your songwriting methodology when you're songwriting with somebody else who is actually conscious and alive rather than someone who shouldn't be there?
Right. Wait, I'm just trying to figure out the scenario where I'm writing with somebody who's not alive.
Well,
Um,
I've had lots of them.
I like that. I mean, I suppose the Coven in itself is a kind of is a collaboration with the dead in some ways, I suppose.
Well, it could be, yes.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. So when I'm writing on my own, usually it's sort of it depends actually, because some songs will take a long time. Some songs will just sort of flood out of you, and you kind of, if you happen to be able to, then you kind of try and harness that whatever that's going on there, and finish the song in one sitting if you can. Otherwise, sometimes they can haunt you for a while talking about dead things,
Yes.
or not quite dead
And
things. But, yeah.
witches, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, so I've had a few songs that have, never been finished that still haunt me sometimes, and I kind of sometimes pick up a guitar and play the beginning of the song, and then I don't know where to go after that. But they always say finish your songs because then they'll stop haunting you. But in terms of methodology, I mean, I get inspiration from all sorts of things, from life, from what I read or watch, or hear people talking about, overhearing conversations, all sorts of things. I'm always scribbling down little lyric ideas on my phone. I have a little note thing on my phone, and I have, every time I do it, I say song lyrics so that I can search them later if I ever have a song to write for something, then I can
Right.
look through my ideas. And then, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's somebody else's story that will inspire it, and that comes from, talking to people or reading, so I've, had a song inspired by a little Oscar Wilde short story. I've had a song inspired by a story from, a really random story I read on a website about Thomas Hardy's uncle, who
Wow.
was a shoemaker, and it was just like this random thing that kind of came
Wow.
from just like clicking on something, and it led to something else. And the shoemaker lost his daughter to scarlet fever when she was about 10 years old, and so that was quite moving, and
Right.
decided to make that into a song. So
Yeah.
and so, yeah, all sorts of things have inspired it. Of course, heartbreak is a big inspiration for a lot of songwriters. I try not to
Oh, it
make every
is.
song about heartbreak because there's so many already.
It's a little tough because you're now with a fantastic recording engineer.
Well,
And how
exactly.
could your heart be broken by that? That's only nothing but pleasure.
It's true. But there are former loves that I can
That's right. Good.
mine.
Exactly.
So yeah, but no, I love writing to briefs as well, because I like the kind of having the kind of restriction of okay, well, this is you have to write something for this purpose. I quite
Yes, I
enjoy
love
that.
that. Yes.
So
But it's sounding like your methodology is subject and lyric based, which is quite interesting because that's exactly sort of what I talk about in my book. Because I say you have to have a target in order to hit the target. You have to know where the target is. And so
Yeah.
once you've got a subject matter, or even, I'm sure this, because you're such a completely great musician, I'm sure that sometimes a musical idea will occur to you. You may
Yeah.
be picking up that banjo thing or one of the other instruments that you have there, and you might feel, oh yeah, this is a really interesting little riff I'm playing here. That
Yeah.
would suggest. So let's say you are writing with somebody else. Now my thing is always go into a writing session with somebody else
Something.
with a couple
Oh,
ideas, you know,
yeah. Hmm.
hopefully unfinished ideas, because otherwise it's going to be difficult, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes you might have a chorus, or you might have a verse, or even just one great line,
Yeah.
and that'll kick off something.
Yeah. So what I was saying about, trying to, finish a song in one sitting, that I sometimes try actively not to, just so I can have a few ideas to bring to sessions, because, nobody wants to kind of, well, some people don't mind working on a song that's already finished and tweaking it
Right,
and maybe adding a
right.
section, but it's so much more interesting to be able to help create that together. But
Yeah.
I mean, it's great having that starting point, but you don't want to have the end already there. You want to be able to have some place to go. So I certainly have done that for a lot of writing sessions. I'll have, even just like one line will be enough to kind of get us going, or subject or whatever, or maybe it's a chorus, maybe it's a verse, maybe it's a chord sequence, so we can start in lots of different places, from the music or from the lyric. I think the lyrics tend to take a lot longer than the music, especially for me anyway. I find I can, I don't know why exactly, but the music comes really easily and naturally, and it just flows very quickly in the way that, anybody who's done any improvisation, it's just sort of feels very accessible, just
Right.
doing the music, and you
Right.
respond to whatever the subject is, and whatever comes out actually often is the right thing, and you kind of go
Yes.
with it. Whereas lyrics, you can go back and forth, and it takes a little while to really, get the perfect lyric that sums up what you're trying to say.
Right.
Um,
Indeed.
So yeah, that's the way I tend to. So I usually start with lyrics, just so that I have a little head start, because as soon
Yes.
as I have a lyric, I'm very quick with the music. So
Yes.
it's the lyrics that take me.
Yes. And just not that you need it at all, but I'm going to send you a copy of my book, because it
Yeah.
does deal with that very thing of what a lot of writers call the blank page. For years and years, I've had the great pleasure of writing with a lot of different songwriters. And so what I used to do is, when I heard some good ideas from another songwriter, I'd say, oh, they're doing that. That's a good thing to do. And that's a good thing to do. And so
Yeah.
I have a system, I call it the 11-point plan, which avoids the blank page. It can't, you can't get the blank page using my method. So I'm going to send it to you just for fun. Not that
I
you
love
need
it.
it, because your songs are great. And in
No,
fact,
we always need it. I mean, everybody needs any tip they can get. But you were saying, sorry. In
yeah.
fact,
No, I know. I was only saying that because your songs are so great, I'd like you to, if you wouldn't mind, pick up one of those instruments and whip out one of your songs for us.
for sure. I don't know if I've ever done this one with you, actually, just because
No.
I usually wouldn't have the banjo when I'm traveling, because it's just another thing to
Oh, I
carry.
know. What's it called, Daisy?
This song is called Puddletown.
Puddletown. Oh,
I
yes.
don't know if we have done that. So just to give a little introduction again, this is Puddletown, which is inspired by Thomas Hardy and his uncle, who was a shoemaker, a cobbler, which of course in Britain means something different to in America. It wasn't an apple crumble. It wasn't a dessert, a delicious dessert that I'm sure your wife makes beautifully. But he was a shoemaker, and he lived, well, in the time of Thomas Hardy, so a long time ago, and there was quite a common, disease at the time called scarlet fever, which, I think it especially with the pandemic recently, kind of this felt like a even more kind of appropriate song in many ways, because this is about something that would afflict a lot of people, and there wouldn't be any way of curing it really at the time. So this is this is Puddletown, which is about the town on the River Piddle, I think is the name, and this actually it was inspired by the songwriting partner on this. Actually heard this on the radio. He heard that Puddletown was flooding on the radio, and he wrote it down because he said, that sounds great, that sounds like a good song. So we looked it up, and then found out all the story about Puddletown, and Thomas Hardy, who lived there, and based a lot of the characters in his books from people he met there. And so his uncle was a shoemaker. He lost his young daughter when she was 10 to scarlet fever. So we imagined in this song that he made a pair of shoes for her that she would never get too big to, she would never outgrow, and she would never, in those shoes, she would never see anything beyond Puddletown, so this little town that she lived in England. So this is Puddletown.
April fires in Puddletown, couldn't help the change and trade the long tomorrow. Well-worn shoes and hand-me-downs, thinking of the things we made to last a borrow. Every step out of love, he made those shoes that never left the town. And every thread through the streets she played in shoes that stayed in Puddletown. Lonely soul lost to the ground. The rain fell like a dripping tap down to the hollow. No man to mend the dying sound. No man to heal, no man to patch to seal the sorrow. Every step out of love, he made those shoes that never left the town. And every thread through the streets she played in shoes that never left that ground. In shoes that stayed in Puddletown. Ooh.
Beautiful, Daisy.
Thank you.
Absolutely lovely. Well, that is gorgeous and lovely. And
Thank you.
what I'm going to do is I'm going to treat the listeners to me torturing you with the Toreador.
Amazing.
So, Daisy, when I called you with this song, what was your first thought?
My first thought was, wow, Richard can fit a lot of words into a song.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's true. I sure can.
I thought it was a wonderful idea, and you mentioned a lot of amazing people who are being part of it, and I was just honored you were asking me, to be honest, and I was happy to be able to do it, even though I'm not in LA a lot, you know, so I could do it from London. And this is before people were doing all sorts of remote sessions, and now, of course, it's normal. But at the time, you know, we weren't doing a lot of remote sessions, so I was very honored to be part of it.
Well,
Thank you.
That's very sweet of you to say. I mean, the thing is, not only did we, Daisy recorded it for me at her place, but with me in LA. But then when she happened to come here to visit, by that time, the record was finished and we were ready to do the video. So we did the video at my house, and my wife Eileen filmed it against a green screen. And then I did the video using a lot of little images and fun things that were in there. So it was kind of fun, and it includes an introduction by me playing the Toreador himself, exactly, which I think I look exactly like a Toreador, and my Spanish accent is just, it's probably the best Spanish accent any actor has ever done in any film. So I was rather happy with that. and Daisy played the part of this poor, innocent, romantic girl who meets a Toreador and is entranced by his amazing Toreadorness. And so this is the song, and it's about a Toreador who really wants to be a waiter. That's all he wants. He wants to serve food in a beautiful restaurant.
I love it.
He doesn't want to kill animals. He just wants to, you know, be an elegant waiter. So that's what this song is about. I come from a long and distinguished family. My ancestors come from Madrid. In 1725, my great-great-great-great-grandfather proudly served wine at the Sobrino de Botín, the oldest restaurant in existence. My family continued the noble tradition at the finest eateries and hotels throughout the world. Oh, the foolishness of youth. I saw my first bullfight at 9, and I was enganchado, how you say, hooked. Why did I not listen to my poor father? Wiping the tears from his eyes, he said, "You are the fruit of my loins, although you may be entranced by the corrida." The roar of the bloodthirsty crowds, the lips of the hot-blooded senoritas, their thighs inflamed by your estocada. The day will come when you long for the drama of the dinner service, the feel of a crisp, white apron, the intellectual challenge of seat assignments, the brilliance of mirror-polished silver, the passion of a special customer's gratuity as she places it, oh, so surreptitiously in your palm. Can't you see, hijo? It is your destiny to serve. It is in your blood. For years, I enjoyed the Fiesta Brava, but soon I started to realize that Padre was right. As I entered the ring, my attention was distracted by people eating in the stands. As the bull charged, I produced a crystal goblet for a housewife drinking a can of Coca-Cola. I thought the banderias were busboys, and I told them, sotto voce, to clear the dirty dishes. One fateful day, the trumpets blared to announce the Tercio de Barra. I walked out to address the bull, armed with a huge plate of paella. Though it was prepared to perfection, the bull walked away in disgust. I did not blame him. How could I forget that bulls are vegetarians?
Toreador, I love you, how I love you, Toreador. I adore you, my Toreador. I love you, how I love you, Toreador. love and bread rolls from the oven, but give me more. What's on the menu within me to win me your heart? Toreador, here's your gratuity in perpetuity evermore. Slip me a dumpling, there's something I think I could use that for. And for dessert you can squirt cream on my cherry tart. My cherry tart. When I got him alone, his bedroom was like a bistro. Would Madame choose from this list of Spanish wine? When he took off his pants, his pockets were full of corkscrews. I've collected them from everywhere I dined. Finally, his kisses were a plague. He served me in so many ways. It was amazing. With his muleta made of fire, he filled my odor of desire. He filled my odor. Oh, how he filled my odor. Toreador, send me gazpacho, but you got the macho that I adore. Give me your love and bread rolls from the oven, but give me more. What's on the menu within me to win me your heart? Toreador, here's your gratuity in perpetuity evermore. Slip me a dumpling, there's something I think I could use that for. And for dessert you can squirt cream on my cherry tart. My cherry tart. From downtown. Though we're doing quite well, can't say I feel swell completely. Yes, there's just one little thing that gets me down. He puts back on his suit of lights. He stabs 3 diners every night. Our children ice pick doors. I mop the blood up off the floor. He's very messy, that blood is very messy. Toreador, send me gazpacho, but you got the macho that I adore. Give me your love and bread rolls from the oven, but give me more. What's on the menu within me to win me your heart? Toreador, here's your gratuity in perpetuity evermore. Slip me a dumpling, there's something I think I could use that for. And for dessert you can squirt cream on my cherry tart. Toreador, I love you. Oh, I love you. He's forcing me to do this. That's it.
You don't have any. You can't do any of the Coven songs, can you?
I can. Mm-hmm.
You could.
Yeah. Would you like? There's one that swears, so I won't do that one. But there is one that we discovered that doesn't have a swear word in it, which is great because we've had to do some radio stuff, and we realized that a lot of the stuff we couldn't even do on BBC Radio because of the swear words. So this is one that we could do.
Right.
And it's on guitar.
Okay, good.
As we were researching the show, we realized that there were a lot of people who we kind of never knew exactly what happened to. There were people who kind of disappeared from the history books, so they might have, they might have a record of them going to prison, but we don't see whether or not they survived, or whether they were hung or whatever.
Right.
And we were just discovering a lot of people who we just, never knew anything about or didn't know very much about, and made us think about all the people who never even made it to any history books, and all the people who never kind of were given gravestones or anything, and so this is a song inspired by all that, which is called She, because we don't know the name. We don't know the name of this person.
No, you don't. No.
And the idea that even though they're not in history books or on gravestones, they still, in the way that that energy is always transformed rather than destroyed, they still exist in the world in some way, whether that's through the trees that have grown since, or in some form in nature, they're still here, even if they're not in written down in history books or given gravestones. And so this is called She.
And because you've rehearsed it and finally written the song, you might call it Coven Ready.
Oh, very good.
Okay, I got one in. All right. Your intonation.
After all this talk about intonation, I just didn't want to, disappoint. I know they say not to tune a guitar when they have a capo on it, but...
Oh, no, that's when you do have to tune it. That's nonsense.
Well, that's what I figured. But
of course you have to tune it with a capo.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Because
somebody told me that once, and I don't know
the
why.
The capo throws the guitar right out of tune.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm glad that we're in agreement here. Okay, I feel validated. Thank you.
I agree with everything you say, Daisy. If it were up to me, you'd be my manager.
Thank you. Okay, this is She from Coven.
You won't find me in a book. You won't find me on a single list. You won't find me if you search. You won't find a trace of me to miss. But you'll find me in the air. You'll find me where the water flows. You'll find me in the strength of trees. You'll find me in an ember's glow. I'll see you on the breeze. 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 You won't find me on a wall. You won't find my name etched in stone. You won't even find a grave. My story's one you'll never know. But you'll find me in the air. You'll find me where the water flows. You'll find me in the strength of trees. You'll find me in an ember's glow. I'll see you on the breeze. I see you on the breeze. See you on the breeze. I see you on the breeze. See you on the breeze. I see you on the breeze. See you on the breeze. I see you on the breeze. Books can burn and papers rot. If the list is all you've got, leave the records left unread. Rather ride the breeze instead. In the end, that's where I'll be. You will know that you found me when you hear the rustling trees. I'll see you on the breeze. 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 In the end, we all end up in the breeze. There we go.
Once again, absolutely beautiful. Daisy Chute, the artist who it's impossible not to love.
Ah, you're very kind. Thank you, Richard.
Well, it's just a fact. I cannot tell a lie. You know, I'm like George Washington. Truth just spews out of my mouth. I just can't help myself.
Oh, I was going to say, you know, I'm related to George Washington.
Are you really?
I am.
That's very interesting. Well, I hear he had wooden teeth, but you don't, of course.
Did he actually?
Apparently, yeah, you know, they didn't have false teeth in those days, so they had to make them out of ivory or wood or something. I don't know.
Wow.
But anyway, he was a pretty cool cat.
Yeah.
Wow.
Sure.
Well, that's a good person to be related to. And it just, you know, proves that you have every right to be half American. I believe that's what you are.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just the bottom half, though. You know.
Okay. Well, the top half is what we can see now, so that's all that matters.
Yeah.
And this is Daisy Chute. I'm so glad you came on the show. I hope that I know that we're going to do a lot more together because you're going to interview me about certain records that I've made, and I look forward to that. Those will be a special series of Radio Richard where Daisy Chute takes over the reins of everything and forces me to answer questions that are embarrassing, which is great, which I look forward to.
I'm looking forward to that.
And
I'm gonna throw in some surprise questions as well.
But meanwhile, Daisy Chute, her new EP is called Songs of Solace, and you can't get any better solace than listening to Daisy sing, as you've already been proven here. And she's featured in David Attenborough's latest thing, but she's not hiding in the bushes eating nuts, as far as I know. Are you doing that?
What is melody?
You've just spent almost an hour in the company of the phenomenally talented Daisy Chute. Why not say thank you to Radio Richard for bringing you this sublime entertainment by liking, sharing, and especially by subscribing to Radio Richard so we can keep making your life better. Thank you.